Hello, welcome back to the Cricket Nerds. What an episode we've got today, because the World Cup is heating up in a big, big way. If you're not following the Cricket World Cup, what are you playing at? If you're not following the Cricket Nerds, what are you playing at? Also, an extra way, a fun little announcement before we start is that you can join the Cricket Nerds memberships. So it means that you get some awesome emojis like that one, that one, and the one that's just covering Benji's face right now. And if you subscribe, if you become a member, it's only $1.99 a month in pounds. I don't know what that is in your currency. But you also get a cool little badge depending on how long you've been a member for, such as that one down there, and the one that's covering Benji's face right now. So
for one, I'm really excited about memberships. I'm not sure it works in all locations on YouTube. We'll have to check that. But if it does work in your location, give it a go. I'm also really glad that James is editing this podcast. And
yeah,
it isn't me.
I've made a lot of work for myself there. But yeah, you get other exclusive things like, we'll guarantee you'll get shout outs, you'll get priority replies, things like that. So yeah, lots of cool stuff. Let's jump into it, because the first game that we had, we'll work through the game week in order. So we won't quite get into the real juicy games yet. But what have we learned about Bangladesh and New Zealand after that match? I feel like not a lot.
No, I don't think we have. I think the game went kind of how we expected. New Zealand, by the way, really didn't like us calling them boring, no character, bring nothing to the party, because they have gone unbeaten through this World Cup so far and have been absolutely cleaning house. So yeah, big props to New Zealand. I felt a bit bad for Will Young that got dropped, actually, because I didn't think he deserved that. And then I think actually it showed that Ravindra is not quite as suited to that number, well, the opening position compared to that number 3. I know they're trying to fit Kane Williamson back in, and the thing is, Captain Kane performed until he had to go out hurt.
Yeah, so I think in a pretty sad way, it doesn't really matter, because they've obviously rushed Williamson back as soon as they could get him back. They got him in that side, and he had that really bad knee injury right at the start of the IPL. He's back now, and then takes one on the thumb, and it doesn't look good, does it? So I don't think the kind of, whatever lessons we might have learned about dropping Will Young and having Ravindra open, I think it was probably the right call, but we'll never know if Rachin Ravindra is a decent opener, because I guarantee Will Young's coming back in, Ravindra's dropping back at 3, and all will stay the same. Bangladesh just kind of look how we'd expect. There were a couple of fighting knocks from Shakib Al Hassan and Mushfiqur Rahim, but there's not a whole lot there, is there? There's New Zealand are steady and also a bit exciting, we have to admit. And then Bangladesh are just not. They're performing exactly how they should, how we'd expect them to. Just like not super strong, but not like the weakest team either. So yeah, this wasn't an upset at all. This wasn't surprising. Let's move on to a game that's actually interesting.
We'll come to the upsets and surprises in no time.
Part of me doesn't want to, but let's get to the. I mean, it's been dominating the headlines, hasn't it? India versus Pakistan. This is the one that the ICC, aka the BCCI, were really pushing in the advertising. They wanted this to be the biggest one, and I mean, it's always going to be the biggest fixture in cricket. It's probably the biggest fixture in sport, and it was a little bit disappointing. I'm not going to lie. Yes, the atmosphere is great. The stadium's packed. That's awesome, and that is brilliant. I would love to go to a game live, but Pakistan they're not there, are they? And India are so far ahead in terms of quality of their team, team form, team composition, just everything. India are ahead at the moment, and it made it not that close a game in the end, was it?
No, I think as you said, it wasn't much of an exciting game unless you're an India fan, and then it was a very exciting game. I mean, the top four for Pakistan did okay, but then it all just fell apart from there once they, lost Mohammad Rizwan and Babar Azam, who had forged a bit of a partnership. There just wasn't really much else. All of the all rounders, I mean, they lost 3 wickets for 12 runs, I think, and then. I mean, even Dan, as far as Mohammad Nawaz, they lost 3 wickets for 16 runs, 4 wickets for 16 runs, which just isn't good enough for that middle order engine room. And then I think the Indian bowlers just bowled fantastically. Jasprit Bumrah, oh my word, he is looking in such good form. He looks unplayable in this World Cup. He bowled 33 dots in that 7-over spell against Pakistan. So and took 2 wickets in there as well. And I think he's definitely the player to watch from an India perspective. And Kuldeep Yadav as well, as we thought, absolutely spinning it all over the place. And again, consistently taking those wickets. And it's really putting India, like, realistically, I think India have such a big chance of winning this World Cup, potentially unbeaten. Like, I can't see really anyone having an answer for India, apart from maybe the Netherlands. We'll come on to later.
Yeah, you know what? They maybe it's an India-Netherlands final. That's what the people really want to see.
But James, again, it was the Babar Azam show. Not the Babar Azam show, the Rohit Sharma show once again. Talk us through his innings and how he just broke the back of that chase.
Yeah, I mean, he did it exactly how he usually does. Again, he's an anchor. He goes through the gears, but he takes on every short ball. And that's a big key, isn't it? He is always punishing. He's got the best hook in the game, and it makes a massive difference. I think you're absolutely right in that the Indian bowlers were the main heroes. They kind of broke the back of the chase in and of itself by leaving such a small target for India. But yeah, Rohit Sharma really kicked things off the way he needed to. Shreyas Iyer then was brilliant. KL Rahul, I feel like, is the perfect chaser in ODIs. He could go at a strike rate of 200 if he needed to. And yet he doesn't want to. He wants to keep his wicket. So if he knows what the target is, he'll just plug away and play for his average. I feel like it's just ideal.
Which is what he does in the IPL and T20s, which in that situation is not ideal, but in ODIs,
a few match losing innings there. But something that we did predict with Pakistan is happening, which is their spinners in the middle order are just not effective. Shadab Khan is about as useful as a chocolate teapot. Mohammad Nawaz doesn't look dangerous at all. And that is a massive thing. When you look at how important Kuldeep Yadav and Ravindra Jadeja are for India and how much of a difference that makes, then the impact that Pakistan are facing with having ineffective spinners is really quite detrimental to their team makeup, and they rely a lot on their seamers. And if their seamers aren't looking quite on top form, like Shaheen Shah Afridi isn't at the moment, Haris Rauf isn't quite at the moment, then what should be almost an infallible bowling attack then looks very, very vulnerable. One thing I want to ask you about is Shardul Thakur, because I'm obviously a big fan of having a deep batting lineup. However, Shardul Thakur doesn't really bowl in this side. Like, there's no need for him to. And especially when you've got Hardik Pandya, who can bowl like a full quota now. And he bats at like 8. I would suggest, and it goes against my very being, that they should get Mohammad Shami in, who is a better bowler, even though it'll, shorten that batting lineup a bit. I just think, why not just get one of the greatest ODI bowlers in the world in that side? because Shardul Thakur's not very useful there. Don't know what you think.
Isn't Shami is he in an injury doubt, or was he just being rested?
I don't know. I thought he was just not picked. I thought he just didn't get in that side.
I mean, right? Clearly, Thakur's been included in that side to, bowl the dog overs. So he reminds me of a little bit of the Liam Plunkett role that England had in the World Cup 4 years ago, where he's there to bowl the hard overs in the middle, and then to provide a bit of stability to the batting as well. I would say with Thakur, he is a wicket-taking threat. I think it was, and he probably would bowl most of the time. I think it was just situational with just how well the rest of the bowlers had been going and how they'd taken all those wickets all the way through. I don't hate his selection, to be honest. I think it could be beneficial either way. I think definitely Thakur adds that batting stability. But Mohammad Shami is most definitely a more talented bowler, and you'd expect would then open the bowling with Bumrah. However, with Bumrah and Siraj, I feel like they can actually afford to rest Shami and have that extra batting depth if they need it. Because I think what we've seen with India, we haven't really seen them struggle. We haven't seen the top six fail so far in this World Cup. Yeah. I don't know if they've lost more than 4 wickets in any of their games so far, because it's just been the top order chipping away. So yeah, I'm going to sit firmly on the fence on this one. I'm not going to provide an answer. I can definitely see the benefit of both. One pick I did have an issue with, though, and annoyed me somewhat, was Shubman Gill, because he was touted as not going to be ready for a Ahmedabad. All of the scouts, all of the fantasy scouting, all of the Twitter posts were saying Shubman Gill's going to travel, but he's not going to play. And then sneaky India sneak him into the team the week that I take him out of my fantasy team after missing 2 weeks worth of points from Shubman Gill, who I'd captained last week. The week he's back, he plays. I mean, he only scored 16, but if he'd have gone to score a century, I'd have been absolutely fuming. The worst thing is, I now have to transfer him back into my team, and he's going to be more expensive. So that's my little rant over about Shubman Gill. But I'm definitely getting him back into my team because he's going to score about 1,000 runs in this World Cup.
Fair enough. I personally think that Ishan Kishan is going to be in better form. But there we go. Let's move on to what we learnt from this next game. Now, I'm kind of reluctant. I'm filibustering a bit because I don't want to come to it. What game?
I know what you mean.
England versus Afghanistan. Afghanistan absolutely humiliated the defending champions. It was embarrassing. It was catastrophic. It was brilliant from Ramanullah Gurbaz and the Afghanistan bowlers. But it was humiliating for England. What have we learned? Like, what can England do?
I don't know, James. England looked absolutely shell-shocked. They looked like they were rabbit in headlights when Gurbaz was, I think, had they scored about 40 off about 5 or 6 overs? I think they were going at 10s at one point at the start of the game.
It was brutal.
I mean, Chris Woakes, as I can often not say a bad word about him, but I think Chris Woakes had given up 7, 14, 34 runs or something in his first 3 overs. And yet, so Afghanistan had cruised to 45 for nothing off the first 6 overs, which is so good for that performance. Yeah, I think just the way that Gurbaz and Zadran came out and attacked at the very start, Zadran less so, but particularly Gurbaz, they just put the bowlers on a back foot straight away. And I've been there in games where you've opened the bowling, you've got high expectations, and someone's just coming out and just smashing you all over the place. It's not a good feeling. And sometimes you just have to take yourself off, take a few minutes. But unfortunately, when Chris Woakes came back on later on, he looked like he had another off day. And it's all well and good saying that players can have off days, but 3 off days on the trot, that is quite something. I think one thing we've learned from this World Cup is Josh Butler seems reluctant to turn to his spinners as much. If you look down the down the bowling sheet, there was only there was 24 overs of spin bowled. So Joe Root had 6 overs to go, and Joe Root had bowled very, very, very tightly, I think, in his 4 overs. And Wokes and Curran were brought back on it. Well, Curran in particular was just dispatched to all areas of the park. The fact that Moeen Ali wasn't in that side on a turning pitch, I don't really understand. And I think what we saw then when Afghanistan were bowling was just how receptive this pitch was to spin. I don't know why Josh Butler seems so reluctant to, bowl out 30 overs of spin in this World Cup. It's a very English way of captaining a side. And yeah, I think there was probably a little bit of tactics that were off in that game. I thought that. I mean, what did you think about the middle order partnerships, James? I think once Gurbaz went after that rocketing start, it seemed like England controlled them for a bit.
Yeah, they had a little bit of a mini collapse, really. It took a little bit of a lucky one from Adil Rashid, really. And then he did some pretty decent bowling. I'd say Adil Rashid actually looked close to his to normal again in that game, which was good. And he got the breakthrough, and then it was a run out, and then the wheels sort of came off for Afghanistan. And then they were able to just kind of rebuild a little bit. Ikram, he did really well, actually. And that was a really important knock that he did, is his 50. And it just shows that Afghanistan has got a little bit more fight than England gave them credit for. And I think England came in very arrogant, and they got what they deserved. I think Chris Wokes and Sam Curran are in horrible bowling form right now. They really haven't figured out what lines, what lengths, and how to bowl. Reece Topley is looking so much better. And I think it's time for a bit of a change. I think you could potentially go in with that extra spinner. Just have Topley and Wood as the seamers. I don't know. And then Willie as well. So I'd get Willie in instead of Sam Curran. And I'd be tempted to drop Wokes for Moeen Ali. It's just, I think we need a change, because Wokes and Curran just look completely ineffective. And then when it came to England's batting, it was pathetic, really, apart from Harry Brook, who was the only one that showed a little bit of fight. Just a lot of soft dismissals, and it was annoying from an England perspective.
I mean, it was. I think Milan, again, applied himself quite well at the beginning. You could tell that Johnny Bairstow was trying to go with the aggressive nature that he'd seen the Afghan openers starting with, and a little bit of a contentious LBW decision there, I would say. And you could see that Johnny Bairstow wasn't pleased as he went off past the umpire. But yeah, I think there were, as you say, Butler's dismissal. Root got done by an absolute piece of wizardry by Mujeeb. And I think what we saw was that on the day, Afghanistan just had the better spinners and the better bowling attack, and I think that's why they came out on top. England have got a lot of soul searching to do if they want to, at this point, even have a hope of making that semi-final. I'm excited to see the fight back. There's still quite a lot to go in this World Cup. I think it adds to the excitement of the World Cup as well. But yeah, definitely a bit of a shock as an England fan.
Yep. Let's move on to a result that similar to the Bangladesh New Zealand game, we kind of expected this. Australia beat Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, very hot and cold team. They only got
just
209. Adam Zampa, fourther. He looked pretty decent. Australia chased it down with 15 overs to spare. But they did lose 5 wickets on the way. And that's probably the only kind of interesting thing, was that, first of all, Josh Inglis has done pretty well. And I don't think anybody really thought he would when he replaced Alex Carey, because Carey is probably, well, going into it, he was one of the only in-form Australian batsmen. And he looked pretty good. And then, he's just kind of not good now. But yeah, it was all right to see Josh Inglis get some runs. And I don't feel like I've learned a whole lot from this game. I don't think it suddenly makes Australia super strong, and like, I don't think they've fixed all their issues. And I also don't think that Sri Lanka are anything close to consistent. So that, I don't know about you. Have you learned anything from this game?
No, I think, I mean, the one thing was, again, Sri Lanka got off to a really good start. They had an over 100 opening partnership. And we've learned that Sri Lanka top order can be really effective, and then they just absolutely collapsed. And some wondrous bowling from Zampa really ended up putting Australia in the front seat. We did have a C&Q, I believe, about Australia and about what they can do to turn themselves around. And I think just if you can find that, if just applying themselves and playing like this is what Australia need to do. You know, they have a lot of skillful players. They just have to apply themselves and show that skill. I think for Australia, it's about just their batting at the minute. Their bowling hasn't been too bad, but really their batting has been what is lacking. I think the main learning, though, is that Sri Lanka are just cold. They've lost all 3 of their games so far, really missing their key players. And yeah, I think they've got a lot of work to do if they want to come anywhere near those spots. They need to win some of these easier games. But yeah, Australia, James, what
so
do you
I was going to read out that C&Q. It was from Look Who's Watching. And he said, please tell us, what can Australia do to bounce back, if they can indeed bounce back? I definitely think they can. I think we both think they can. Do you think that not picking up specialised batsmen and banking too heavily on bits and pieces all-rounders, barring Maxwell, is the reason for their pathetic show this World Cup? Potentially,
I mean,
yeah.
Their top 5 are specialist batters.
They are, yeah. Well, Mitch Marsh is an all-rounder, but he's been in good form with the bat, I'd say. I wouldn't say that Australia are in that bad a position in terms of their squad makeup. I'm a little bit confused as to why they're. I think Stoinis is almost operating as a Shardul Thakur for them, and in the same way, I just think unless they're going to do what they were doing in the ODIs a little while ago, which was open with Stoinis, because he was doing pretty well as an opener, then I don't see why they should bother with him, because I think there are better batters and I think there are better bowlers. So yeah, that would be my only thing. There is an issue that Pat Cummins hasn't looked great in this World Cup so far. So they almost need to rely on a few more people, and him being the captain.
He looked pretty good against Sri Lanka.
Yeah, he did. But again, you need to weigh up whether that's Sri Lanka not looking good and Australia looking good. So, like we say, we didn't learn a whole lot from that match, but interesting to see. Definitely don't think Australia are out of it yet. Let's move on, because another team that, a team that was looking really strong has been upset. And I'd say this is the biggest upset of the World Cup so far. It definitely was England and Afghanistan, but England have looked weak so far. Netherlands absolutely trouncing South Africa. What a beauty.
I just can't believe it.
I'm still in shock. It was an absolutely brilliant game. I really enjoyed it. Anything that has Rolf van der Merwe in it, he loves cricket. You can tell every time he takes a wicket, he's absolutely mad for it. He played a perfect finisher's role today. It was just brilliant. I absolutely loved it. The fact that South Africa, let me tell you a little story, Benj. South Africa, once upon a time, had Netherlands 112 for 6. and they ended up Scott Edwards, the absolute legend, the superhero in this tale, ended up getting an unbeaten 78 from 69 balls to get Netherlands up to 245 for 8. And South Africa, they never really got started on the way, did they? It was a wet display.
I could not believe it. I think Logan Van Beek bowled like he was on an absolute mad one today. Looked fantastic, actually. The best I think I've ever seen him bowl. Good old Roller van der Merwe. I think he gets my shout out for player of the match.
Yeah.
For just the absolute vibes. I think just to coin Dan's phrase from a few weeks ago, but taking 2 really important wickets and also that hand did knock at the end. But as a leader as well, I think they just really all came together, and Netherlands have impressed us all the way through this tournament so far, but they've not just quite got there. But as we've said, today was the first time we've seen all 3 of those parts come together. The beginning, the middle, and the end, and the bowling. It was just the perfect storm. And you know what? Netherlands, they've stole my heart this game.
Yeah, I am part Netherlands fan now. And I don't know what to do about it, but it was they won the hearts and minds of the people. Just brilliant.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a bit about South Africa's pitiful response with the bat?
Can do. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say. I think execution on the day wasn't there. Quite a bit. They looked pretty flat-footed, and yeah, they just didn't have the answers. It was interesting to see how vulnerable they were after they'd been so dominant with the bat in the previous games as well. That was really eye-opening to see how it could go wrong for them. I think it'll be interesting to see who bounces back, because obviously South Africa's next game is against England. Both teams have suffered an humiliating defeat to a team that they really, really should have beaten. So who do you think's going to win that one? I mean, my money's on South Africa to bounce back, but
after today's game,
both of them really got their tails between their legs. So
I think England at the Wangahidi Stadium versus South Africa at the Wangahidi Stadium, my money's probably on South Africa going into this game.
Yeah,
we know what the Wangahidi can do to teams. We've seen it time and time again in the IPL. Interestingly, I don't know if there are any players who play there regularly from either team. We'll come back to that one in a later podcast if we can work that out. Very quickly, before we finish, me and Zach started this last week, but James, I want to hear your fancy pick of the game week. So this week we've got Netherlands, Afghanistan, New Zealand, Afghanistan, India, Bangladesh, Australia, Pakistan, Netherlands, Sri Lanka, England, South Africa. Who is your fancy pick of the week? Of the game week?
I'm going to go for I think I'm going to say Rohit Sharma. I think he could do really well. I haven't actually got him in my fantasy team for this week. If you want to see, I post my fantasy team every game week on our Twitter, so give that a follow if you want to see it. I'm not very good, but there we go. But yeah, I think Rohit Sharma is going to be the main one. Just a bit expensive for me. But yeah, who's yours?
I am going to be going back to Shubman Gill. I'm sitting at the top of the Cricket Nerds pile at the minute, but only by about 100 points. So that really could all change.
Not the overall Cricket Nerds leaderboard, though.
Yeah, the overall Cricket Nerds leaderboard.
Really?
Yep.
No way. Wow. Well done.
Yep. I have got to the top in this game week.
That is mind blowing. Well, that's worth a subscribe anyway, isn't it? Just in and of itself. There we go. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Become a member if you want. It's a bit of fun, isn't it? You can also listen to our podcasts. Everything is down in the link tree in the description, as well as the social media as well. So thank you very much for watching. We'll see you later. Goodbye.